The Kraft Foods Company presents The Great Gildersleeve.
Yes.
It's The Great Gildersleeve, starring Harold Perry, brought to you by the Kraft Foods Company, makers of Parquet margarine and a complete line of famous quality food products. Like a lot of people these days, Gildersleeve lately has been taking stock of himself and of his prospects for the future. Now, when a man gets so low in his mind that he's willing to face the ugly truth about himself, there's usually some dear friend who can be counted on to help rub it in.
You know what the trouble with you is, Gildy?
No.
You want me to tell you?
No.
You really want to know?
No. What?
You're lazy.
I am not.
You wanted to know.
What makes you say I'm lazy?
Because you loaf around here trying to make a career out of a part-time job.
Water commissioner? That's one of the biggest...
It's a political sinecure, and if you don't know it, you're the only man in town who doesn't.
Hooker?
Look at your predecessor, Clanahan. He was not only water commissioner, he was in the contracting business, he was in the sand and gravel business, He was
a crook.
Granted. But if you had the slightest bit of get up and go, you'd be out wrestling around trying to stir up something, too. Something that would bring you in a little income instead of just sitting here complaining.
Yep.
I'll tell you what's the matter with you, my friend. You've made a career out of boondoggling.
Oh.
I only tell you these things for your own good, Gildy.
Hooker, I doubt if I'll ever speak to you again as long as I live.
Ah, friendship. But a few days later, the seed the judge had planted bore fruit.
Hello there, Mr. Bullard.
Oh, hello, Gildersleeve.
Raking your leaves, I see.
Yes, doing a little raking. Gardener usually does it, but...
I ought to rake mine, too. Have to speak to Leroy about that. Your place looks very nice.
Thanks. Oh, say, Gildersleeve.
Yes?
I've been meaning to speak to you. You've lived in Summerfield longer than I have.
Yes?
I have a little problem. You see, I have a married sister. Her husband passed on recently, and I sort of have her on my hands.
A widow, eh?
Unfortunately. Although her husband never amounted to much in a business way. But it was a loss. The point is, I'd like to bring her here to Summerfield if I can find a house for her. You don't happen to know of one.
What's the matter with the house next door to me there? Mrs. Ransom's house. Ideal house for a widow. This sister is younger than you say?
Older.
Oh.
No. No, I looked into that house a little. It seems to be all tied up in some estate. And I don't know that it'd be quite suitable anyway. You see, what I want... Well, I don't want a great big house, but on the other hand...
You want something suitable.
That's right, something suitable.
How high would you be willing to go?
Well, I know you have to pay for houses these days.
You said it.
But as long as it's not too far out of line...
Mr. Bullard, I'm glad you spoke to me. I'll go right to work on it.
You know of a house?
I might.
Whose?
That would be telling, Mr. Bullard. But don't you worry, you just leave it in my hands and I'll get you a house.
Uncle Mort, you're not thinking of selling him this house.
Gosh, where would we live?
Yeah, that's the hitch. But there he is, money running right out of his ears, practically. And he wants a house the worst way.
Unky, you've got to learn not to get excited every time somebody comes along and wants to buy the house. Now, it's happened 3 times in the last year, and every time we've had to go through this.
I know, but it seems such an opportunity, darn it. I tell you, there are fortunes to be made in real estate today, children. Fortunes.
Why don't you go in the business?
I'm thinking seriously of it, Leroy. Thinking seriously of it. Let's see now. What would I need?
You'd need some real estate.
Well, not necessarily. That's not the way they operate. You see, they get a commission for selling other people's real estate.
Boy, that's some racket.
We do not consider it a racket, Leroy. And I'll thank you not to call it that. Ours is a public service that fills a real need. Now take Mr. Bullard, for instance. He needs a house for his widowed sister. Needs it real badly. But if he hadn't happened to come to me, and I hadn't happened to be in the real estate business, he might never find one. I wonder where I'm going to find one.
I wonder where you're going to find an office, even.
Yeah, that, too. Well, who needs an office? My office is in my hat. Where is my hat?
On the floor. You just took it off.
Oh. Hand me the whisk broom there, my boy. I want to sweep out the office.
What a character.
Yes, sir, children. There are fortunes to be made in this business.
Hey, where are you going?
A real estate man, Leroy, never tells anybody where he's going. Hello, Judge.
Oh, it's you. Well, come in.
Certainly glad I found you at home.
I thought you weren't speaking to me, Gildy.
I'm in the real estate business now, Judge. I'm speaking to everybody.
Real estate?
Mm-hmm. Just a sideline. I never really considered the water department a full-time job, you know.
Huh.
Judge, how'd you like to sell this shanty for $40,000?
$40,000?
In the neighborhood, I should imagine.
Is this a bona fide offer?
Absolutely. 14 carat, double A.
Who's the client?
That would be telling, Horace. But he's well-heeled, believe me. Of course, there'd be the usual commission involved.
Oh, you come over here as a friend, and then you...
Not only a friend, Judge, but a businessman. Thanks to you. And business is business, you know. Take your time, Judge. Think it over. Well, what's your answer?
Well, I don't...
Yes or no?
Well, Gildy,
Come, Judge. How about it?
I'm trying to decide.
You don't need this great big house. You know you don't. Nobody in it but you and your housekeeper. You ought to be ashamed living in a great big house like this with all this housing shortage.
But, Gildy...
It'll probably fall apart on you anyway. I guarantee you'll spend more on repairs on this house in the next 2 years than it cost you originally. Now, you don't want this house. Get rid of it. Sell it while the selling's good.
But, Gildy, if...
$40,000, Judge. Cash on the line. What's your answer?
Gildy, if I sold this house, where would I go?
Nuts. If you had a place to go, would you sell it?
I'd certainly consider it.
All right, I'll find you a house. Hello, Peavy.
Well, Mr. Gildersleeve, what can I do for you?
Peavy, let me ask you something. Have you and Mrs. Peavy ever thought of taking in a boarder?
No, I can't say we ever have. No, we've been pretty fortunate that way.
Now, wait a minute. It might not be so bad, Peavy. It might be worth considering.
Why?
Well, it'd be a chance to share expenses. Fill that extra room of yours and make a nice little profit out of it.
Oh, I don't think Mrs. Peavy or I would like having a stranger in the house. Come stumbling in at all hours of the night, knock over the potted plants.
Well, suppose it wasn't a stranger. Suppose it was someone you knew. Someone you know very well.
Who?
Well, this is just an idea, Peavy. But for the sake of argument, say it was someone like, say Judge Hooker, for instance.
Well, what would the judge do?
I'm just saying suppose. But suppose the judge liked the idea and you liked the idea. What a wonderful arrangement it would be for all around. Save money. Have high old times together.
I don't know.
You know, sometimes I worry about you, Peavy. You and Mrs. Peavy. Just two old souls living all alone there.
You think what we need is another old soul, huh?
Let me tell you something, Peavy. A man couldn't have a better friend than Horace Hooker.
Well, I guess that's true.
He's sober. He's neat. He's dependable.
Yes, he is.
And above all, he's a gentleman. A gentleman and a scholar.
Yes, he is.
He's true blue, Hooker is. He's all wool and a yard wide.
I'll go along with you there, too.
He's good company. He's considerate of others.
Oh, always.
In fact, it's a positive pleasure just to have him around. What's more, he goes to bed early.
Oh, I've always thought well of Judge Hooker. The judge has always been a real favorite of mine. Good customer, too.
You bet he is. Why don't you offer him your extra room, Peavy? See what he says.
We haven't got an extra room.
Now, don't tell me that. I've been to your house.
Oh, the parrot has that room.
Well, for goodness sake, can't you move him out?
Mr. Gildersleeve, if Mrs. Peavy ever came to a choice between me and that parrot, I know which one of us would have to go.
Ye gods, foiled by a parrot. If I got to move the old goat in with me...
Well, why can't the old goat stay right where he is?
Because, you dunce, I've got a chance to sell his house for $40,000. Guess I didn't tell you, Peavy. I'm in the real estate game now, on the side.
Oh. Well, why didn't you say so in the first place?
You mean we might have made a deal? It's not too late, you know. Now, if you took the judge
Mr. Gildersleeve, I have one answer I give to all salesmen.
Oh? What's that?
Get out.
Yeah.
Well, you never knew the great Gildersleeve to stay out, and he'll be back in just a moment.
You know, Mr. Lang, I was doing some shopping today for a Halloween party, and I thought I'd try the same thing on my grocer that the children do to me. So I walked up to the counter and said, "Trick or treat, Mr. Gibson." And he said, "You're in for a treat today. There's parquet margarine in the refrigerator."
That really was a treat.
You're telling me. I've been trying for days to get some parquet to serve with hot rolls at this party.
Well, it looks as though your guests are going to be well served. And I admire you for sharing parquet with them when there's still such a scarcity of fine quality spreads for bread. But I know how it is. When a woman discovers parquet margarine's delicious country sweet flavor, she wants her friends to know about it, too. It's like telling them about a favorite recipe. The spreading of the good word about this good spread has made parquet a favorite in millions of homes. So if you'd like to share in its goodness, too, look first when you shop for delicious, flavor-fresh Parquet, P-A-R-K-A-Y, Parquet margarine, made by Kraft. Now let's get back to the great Gildersleeve, whom we find sitting quietly in the parlor of his home and castle.
Let's see, we could put the old goat in the sewing room, I guess. That cot in there isn't so wonderful, but I doubt if he sleeps very well anyway. If he doesn't like it, he knows what he can do. There's worse fellows than Hooker to live with, I guess. He's clean. He's honest. Well, fairly honest.
Hi, Unky. What are you doing?
Huh? Just thinking, my dear.
Thinking. Poor Unky. Don't you want the evening paper?
No, thank you. I can think better without it.
Okay, go ahead and think. I've got to study.
Yes. Marjorie? Leroy? Come here. I want to talk to you.
Go ahead. I can hear you.
I don't wish to shout. Come over here, please. You too, Leroy. Now, leave your nose alone, Leroy.
It itches.
Use your handkerchief. Now, Judge Hooker is coming to supper tonight.
I know. I heard you tell Bertie.
Yes. But this is going to be a sort of a special occasion.
His birthday?
No. But I want him to have a wonderful time, do you hear? I want him to feel at home.
He always does. He always goes to sleep on the sofa after supper.
Well, I want him to feel particularly at home this evening. To feel he's a member of the family. I want him to feel what he's missing. Living all alone there in that great big old house.
I don't get it.
Neither do I. Do you want to make him feel good or feel bad?
Children, how would you like it if the judge came to live with us?
Are you kidding?
Of course he is.
I am not. I think it would be nice to have the judge living with us, and I want you children to make the prospect very attractive to him.
Unky, what a terrible idea.
Now, don't get panicky. It won't be so terrible, my dear.
You mean he'd sleep here and everything?
Certainly. Sleep here, take his meals here, just like one of the family.
But what's the idea? The judge is getting along okay where he is. Why louse us up?
That's not a very friendly spirit, my boy. Let's think of the others, shall we? Judge Hooker, all alone over there.
Unky, there's something more to this. Why should you start worrying about Judge Hooker all of a sudden?
My dear, I have reasons. Good and sufficient reasons. As I say, the main idea is I'm sorry for the judge. He's getting old now. Ought to be surrounded by younger people. And then, besides, confound it, I've told you we have to cut down expenses. The judge would be a paying guest.
Oh, so that's it.
But why him? There's lots of people looking for rooms. The man that delivers the groceries is looking for a room. He has to sleep in his truck every night. He's a swell guy, too, Unc. He's double-jointed. Can't we have him?
We're not going to have some Tom, Dick, and Harry living with us, Leroy. Judge Hooker's an old friend. It'll be a pleasure to have him with us. A pleasure for him and a pleasure for us. Do you understand? Never mind whether you understand or not. When he gets here tonight, you'll be just as charming as you know how.
That's something I don't know much about.
Then you'd better be even more so.
Good evening, Judge.
Good evening, Leroy.
Good evening, Judge.
Marjorie. It's Throckmorton.
Come in, old friend. Come in. Come in out of the wintry blast. Remove your outer garments and rest your bones by our roaring fire.
Jeepers, he's shooting the works.
Marjorie, take the judge's coat, my dear.
I'm going to as soon as he gets it off.
Here.
By George, it's good to have you with us, Horace.
It's good to be with you.
Let's all go in the living room, shall we? I know Bertie will have supper ready in just a few minutes.
I'm hungry. What are we having?
Whatever Bertie gives us, we know it'll be delicious, don't we?
Yes, indeed.
As long as it isn't leftovers.
Leroy. Marjorie, let's let Judge Hooker have the sofa, shall we?
Oh, never mind. I'd like to stand here in front of the fire for a moment. Toast my coattails, as my grandfather used to say.
Very good. Very good.
Leroy, I haven't seen you in quite some little time. What have you been doing?
Me? Nothing.
Schoolwork keeping you pretty busy, is it? I suspect you find time for a game of catch now and then, just the same.
Catch?
Leroy's getting more homework now, Judge. He's quite a student.
I'm glad to hear it. Have you learned to parse a sentence, Leroy?
Pardon?
Learning to parse an English sentence is the beginning of a real education. I dare say your sister can tell you all about it.
I never heard of it.
My dear.
What is it?
My golly, this modern education. If they don't teach them English grammar, what do they teach them?
Yes. By George, it's good to have you with us, Horace.
Good to be with you.
Is that a new suit, Judge?
No, indeed. I bought this suit in 1932.
Jeepers, it's older than me.
This is worsted, this suit. Not an unfinished worsted, mind you. A hard worsted. It's a material that wears like iron.
Looks like iron. It's a funny thing, but I can't keep a suit that long, that no matter what it's made of.
Well, there are one or two simple rules for a man who wants his clothes to last. I learned them from my father, and they've saved me a pretty penny in the course of the years.
Pay attention, Leroy. This is something you'll want to remember.
I never wear the same suit 2 days in succession. Wear it today, take it off, hang it up carefully, wear another suit tomorrow. It's very important to give the fabric a rest.
You don't say.
That's the whole trick. I rotate my suits. I've got suits I've had for 20 years that look almost as good as the day I bought them.
Remarkable. Isn't it, Leroy?
Yeah.
Do you hear that, Marjorie? How the judge makes his suits last?
Yes, it was very interesting.
Miss Gildersleeve, supper's on the table.
Yay! Something on the table!
Leroy, we do not race our guests to the table.
I'm hungry.
Just wait for the rest of us.
Good evening, Bertie.
Good evening, Judge.
Marjorie, will you take my arm?
What? Oh.
Fine to have him with us, isn't it, my dear? Well, Bertie, what have we here?
Something special, Mr. Gildersleeve, in honor of Judge Hooker.
Oh, Bertie, you shouldn't.
Well, Mr. Gildersleeve told me he wanted you to enjoy yourself specially, so I done what I could.
Bertie, your humblest effort is invariably successful.
Well, I hope you like it. I heard this one on the radio.
Can't quite make out what it is. Pass this to the judge, will you, Bertie?
Yes, sir.
Will you forgive me if I take my vitamins before I start, Throckmorton? Marjorie?
No. Go right ahead. Liberty Hall, Horace.
Dr. Pettibone recommended these things, and I must say I've had a better appetite and more pep, too. The blue box is A, B1, and E. The yellow box is D and G.
That ought to fix whatever's wrong with you, Horace. For Marjorie, Bertie.
The A vitamin helps my eyes. B1 tones up the nervous system. E is for,
Excellent.
That will do, Leroy.
E is for something or other. And then D is the sunshine vitamin. And G is for,
Gildersleeve.
Leroy.
Okay, can I start now, Unc?
You may.
What is this?
Oh.
Yes. What is it, Bertie?
Well, I wanted to fix something that would go with the judge's special diet. This is eggplant pie.
Delicious, Bertie. Simply delicious.
Yes, isn't it? Yum, yum. Bertie, you've done it again. Eat it, Leroy. Eat every mouthful and tell your sister to do the same.
Delicious dinner, Gildy. And so wholesome, too.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Excuse me. Let the judge have the sofa, Marjorie.
Oh, here, Judge, I'd rather have the straight chair.
Thank you, Marjorie. You know, Gildy, you ought to try that diet that Pettibone prescribed for me. Might help you.
I'm perfectly healthy, thank you. But I might consider it, Judge. I can get used to practically anything. By George, it's good to have you with us, Horace.
It's good to be with you.
What are we going to do? Could I play the radio?
A little music would be delightful. Does it have to be the radio?
What else?
I was wondering about your work on the piano, Leroy. You still taking lessons?
Sure, but nobody likes to hear me play.
No, Leroy, that's not true. I often ask you to play for me.
You want me to play now?
I don't think this is just the time.
I think it would be very nice.
I think it would be very nice, too. Some other time.
Pay no attention to your uncle, Leroy. Give us a little concert.
Okay.
Good to have you with us, you old goat. Oh, here's Bertie, and a surprise for you, Judge.
It's Kalak water, Judge.
Well, this is an unexpected treat.
I thought of it myself, Horace. I thought to myself, Horace always takes a glass of Kalak water at home after supper. Why not here?
Shall I pour it, Judge? Say when.
That's it.
Mr. Gildersleeve, you want some?
Certainly, Bertie. I love it. Whoop, that's fine. Well, Horace, bottoms up. Your very good health, old friend.
Same to you. Oh, my. I'm sorry.
What's the matter, Judge?
You had it on ice, haven't you, Bertie?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gildersleeve told me.
Oh, Gildy, I always serve it at room temperature.
Oh, for heaven. You're right, Horace. I should have remembered. Take it out and warm it up for him, Bertie.
Yes, sir.
Now, Leroy, a little music.
Okay, you asked for it.
I'll just stretch out here on the sofa if I may.
Make yourself comfortable, Horace. Go ahead, Leroy.
Very good, Leroy. Very enjoyable.
Yeah? Gee,
Would you play something else?
that's all I know.
Well, play that again. Beethoven, isn't it?
It's Bach.
That's what I meant to say. Nice melody. Play it again.
Now, Judge, listen here. I've heard that piece a good deal oftener than you. He's been playing it for 2 years as badly as he played it just then. I can't stand it anymore.
Well, Gildy, I don't know how you expect the boy to improve if you don't give him a little encouragement.
Encouragement? I've encouraged him to the tune of $2 a week for his lessons for 5 long years. When is it going to start paying off?
It'll begin to pay off when the boy feels that he's appreciated. That's when.
What?
If you had any ear for music, you'd know he had talent.
He has not.
Miss Root says I have.
You stay out of this. If you have talent, Miss Ritz has failed to bring it out. And another thing, Hooker, don't talk about my ear for music. You can't even carry a tune.
I resent that.
Go ahead and resent it. And don't think you're going to live here either.
What did you say?
Nothing. I just wouldn't want you here as a permanent guest, that's all.
I don't know what you're talking about, but nothing could induce me to accept such an invitation.
All right, we understand each other.
Certainly.
You're a cantankerous old goat.
You're a stubborn old windbag.
Now you're beginning to sound like yourself.
No, Marjorie.
You want to try the K-Lac water again, Judge? I set it on the back of the stove a minute.
Fine, Bertie.
You want some, Mr. Gildersleeve?
No, thank you, Bertie. I hate the stuff.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Take it away. But, Bertie.
Yes, sir?
Fix some bacon and eggs for me and the children, will you? We couldn't eat that eggplant a la Hooker.
Unky.
Gee, thanks, Unc.
With plenty of toast, Bertie.
What's going on here?
Never mind, you old goat. You can forget that real estate deal we were talking about.
I already have.
Good. Marjorie, play the radio if you want to. Leroy, do whatever you like. Jump up and down on the sofa. Hooker, would you like a nice, unfriendly game of checkers?
All right, if you promise not to cheat.
Good old Horace. As long as I can hate you, you're not a bad fella.
The Great Gildersleeve will be right back. These last several weeks on the Gildersleeve Show, we've been trying to explain why it's often so hard to find Parquet margarine in your food store. Quality spreads for bread are still scarce, and right now it looks as though supply won't catch up with demand for many months to come. Kraft will continue to distribute fairly and equitably all the Parquet it's possible to make. And Kraft's modern margarine plants are ready to speed production at a moment's notice just as soon as more top-quality American vegetable oils are available for Parquet. In succeeding weeks on this program, you'll be hearing about other favorite Kraft quality food products. We'll be back with more news about Parquet later in the season. So until then, remember to always look first for delicious, flavor-fresh Parquet. Parkay. Parquet margarine. Made by Kraft.
You know, Unky, I'm glad you gave up the real estate business.
Really? Why, Marjorie?
I don't know. It did something to you. It made you seem harder somehow.
That's exactly why I gave it up, my dear. Yes, when success comes to mean so much to a man that it begins to go to his head. It's time to taper off. Time to taper off. Well, I guess I'll taper off. Good night, my dear. Good night, customers.
The Great Gildersleeve is played by Harold Perry. It is written by John Whedon and Sam Moore. The music is by Jack Meakin. Included in the cast are Walter Tetley as Leroy, Louise Erickson as Marjorie, and Lillian Randolph as Bertie. Judge Hooker is Earl Ross, and Dick LeGrand plays Mr. Peavy. This is John Lang saying goodnight for the Kraft Foods Company, and stay tuned in for all the rest of NBC's Great Wednesday Entertainment. Be sure to listen to next Wednesday for the further adventures of the Great Gildersleeve.
Remember tomorrow to ask your grocer for the wonderful Kraft product called Frizz. Frizz makes delicious ice cream right in your refrigerator. Velvety, smooth, rich ice cream with plenty of cream and milk in it. It's easy to make any flavor you like with Frizz. Just add water, a little sugar, and freeze according to directions on the package. You get 6 generous servings from one package. Because Frizz is made by an exclusive process that retains the fresh cream flavor, and because it freezes smoothly, Frizz ice cream is simply delicious. Frizz, F-R-I-Z-Z.
This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
The Kraft Foods Company presents The Great Gildersleeve. It's The Great Gildersleeve, starring Harold Perry, brought to you by the Kraft Foods Company, makers of a complete line of famous quality food products. Well, let's see what's going on at the Great Gildersleeve's house. Sounds like the wrong house, but it's not. It's a pajama party. The fact is, Gildersleeve's niece, Marjorie, is entertaining 3 of her most intimate girlfriends overnight tonight, and the whole gang has just finished supper.
Hey, girls, you want to see a card trick?
No, Leroy.
Let me remind you, Leroy, that this is not our party. It's Marjorie's.
I'm only trying to help entertain.
This is strictly for girls, my boy. You and I aren't even supposed to be here.
Well, I got a new trick that's a pip. Where are the cards, Marge?
How would I know? Let me tell you about this character. I was walking down the corridor.
I think I left them in my raincoat pocket.
Well, anyway, I was just walking down the corridor, minding my own business, when this character popped out of Miss Turley's room. And what do you think he said to me? You'll never believe it. Good morning. Good morning.
I don't believe it.
He couldn't. I'm telling you, that's not the character
You're getting
Miss
involved.
Don't you think so, Francie?
Oh, absolutely.
How do they do it? Girls, what's so strange about somebody saying good morning?
Oh, I couldn't possibly explain it to you, Unky. But if you could see this character.
Okay, ladies, if you'll give me your attention, please.
Leroy, must you always be showing off?
Who's showing off? I'm just doing a card trick. Take a card, Mary Louise. Any card at all.
Oh, look out. He's trying to make you take a certain one, then he'll know.
Any card at all.
Leroy, the girls didn't come over here to see you do card tricks.
Oh, but if the...
Say, Marjorie, do you know the name of that boy that sits next to Clubby Travis in history?
Oh, sure, his name is Al. He's cute, isn't he?
Oh, do you think so? Clubby says he's an awful drill.
Well, how would Clubby know? I mean, after all, he's the...
Oh, Francie, you're too...
Mary Louise, take a card, will you?
Leroy. Uncle Mort, isn't it time for Leroy to be in bed?
Yes, by George it is. Leroy, 8:30, off to Bilo.
Oh, it's Friday night.
You still need your sleep, Leroy.
But the girls want to see some card tricks.
Your health comes first, Leroy. Perhaps you can do a few tricks to the girls in the morning. Now beat it.
Gosh, every time I'm having a good time.
Good night, my boy.
Good night, Leroy.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, Leroy.
Good night.
Say, girls.
What's on the radio, Marjorie?
I don't know. What time is it?
Francie, have you ever seen my imitation of a hummingbird in flight?
It's around 8:30. There must be some music on somewhere. What'd you say, Mr. Gildersleeve?
I'll try it.
Girls, listen. Did I ever tell you the story of the absent-minded college professor and the tomcat? This professor was very absent-minded, and one day he...
What station is Clark Spielman's orchestra?
It's about in the middle.
One day he was about to walk into his classroom when he suddenly remembered he'd forgotten to feed his cat.
I think I got it.
He remembered he'd forgotten to feed his cat. The cat was at home, and of course he was late, so... Girls!
Unky, please.
Well, anyway, in the end, the professor kicks his toothbrush out of the house and brushes his teeth with the cat.
Uncle Mort, we're trying to listen to the music.
Oh, music. Well, that's not a bad little orchestra. I like jazz when it's well done. Garden of Eden, just made for two, with nothing to mar our joy.
Uncle Mort.
There would be such wonderful things to do. I would say such wonderful things to you.
Is he kidding?
If you were the only girl in the world, and I were the only boy.
Uncle Mort, would you come out in the hall a minute, please?
Me, Hall? What's the matter?
Unky, why don't you go out somewhere? We can't have any fun while you're here.
I was going in a minute. I didn't know you were in such a big hurry.
Oh, now don't take it that way, please, Unky.
I'm merely trying to entertain your little friends, my dear. If my humble efforts are not pleasing, you only have to say so.
Unky, that's not it. Not exactly.
Say no more. Say no more. Ladies, I regret that a previous engagement has to tear me away from you.
Oh, Mr. Gildersleeve, must you go?
I must. Good night, ladies.
Good night, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Get my hat. Again, I say, good night.
Good night.
Wonder what they're laughing at. The light's still on up there in Marjorie's room. They've got no business being up at this hour. Darn kids. I don't understand this generation. Haven't they got enough sense to go to bed? Well, I have. Things seem pretty quiet. Oh, my goodness.
Mr. Gildersleeve, is that you?
Huh? Yes, Bertie, it's me. Has this racket been going on all evening?
Yes, sir. I thought they'd quiet down when they went to bed, but I was wrong. Yes, sir, I was really wrong.
Have you tried to quiet them, Bertie?
No, sir, I haven't. Leroy tried once.
What happened?
I don't know exactly, but it sounded like a massacre. After that, he locked his door.
Guess I won't try it. Maybe I'll just... How am I going to get any sleep?
I thought about that, Mr. Gildersleeve, so I made up the cot in your study.
In my study? That's the worst bed in the house, Bertie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but I'll sleep in it. Good night, Bertie. Try to go to sleep, I guess. Oh, brother, what a bed. By George. Kicking me out of my own house, my own flesh and blood. Keeping little Leroy awake. Keeping me awake. Why are they so quiet all of a sudden? I don't trust a bunch of girls together. Mighty funny. All of a sudden, they're quiet. Ribble-deeble.
Well, for heaven's sake, still sound asleep. Uncle Mort.
Chimp, what's it for?
Unky, wake up. It's almost noon. Unky, it's 11:45.
11:45? What day is it?
It's Saturday. The girls are all gone. Don't you want some breakfast?
Sure, guess so.
I'm sorry if we drove you out of the house last night, Unky.
What? Oh, yes. Well, if you feel your old uncle is a nuisance.
Oh, it wasn't that, Unky. But the girls wouldn't talk while you were around.
They did nothing but talk. Jabber, jabber, jabber. All at once.
Oh, well, that stuff. But we couldn't tell any secrets while you were there, and that's the only fun.
Secrets?
Can you imagine what Francie tried to tell us? She claims she's engaged.
Francie engaged at her age?
It's a secret engagement, according to her. I'll bet it is.
That's the silliest thing I ever heard of. Francie engaged.
She's only known the boy for 2 months, for heaven's sake. Why, I've known Ben for 4 years.
No, Marjorie.
Do you know what she had the nerve to imply? She implied that I couldn't get engaged if I wanted to. Just because Ben and I have been going together for so long.
Now, don't you be getting any ideas.
For heaven's sake, what's so hard about getting engaged? All you have to do is play your cards right.
Marjorie, really?
Who does she think she is, anyway? I think it'd serve her good and right if somebody showed her up.
Now, see here, young lady, you listen to me.
What?
If this is the kind of ideas you get, there'll be no more pajama parties.
Well, I'm not going to let Francie make a fool out of me.
I'm not going to let you make a fool of yourself.
Oh!
Marjorie, come back here. Oh, confound it, how do you get out of this thing?
Tonight we have some of the best news for you you've heard in a long time. An old friend of yours is back on your grocer's shelf, or will be very soon. Yes, it's famous Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise. Now that the supply of fine salad oil is becoming more plentiful, Kraft can once again make this superior mayonnaise. Not as much as we'd like, of course, but a reasonable quantity. And we're more than pleased to tell you about it. Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise, you know, is mayonnaise with a piquant, homemade flavor. A delicate, just right flavor that comes from the choice ingredients that go into it. For Kraft mayonnaise is made from fine oil and eggs, fragrant vinegar and spices. Then, as a final crowning touch, fresh lemon juice is added. Its texture, too, is superb. A special patented beater exclusive with Kraft gives Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise a velvety smoothness, nothing short of perfection. In every respect, Kraft mayonnaise measures up to the most exacting standards. We know you'll enjoy it. And incidentally, another famous Kraft product, Miracle Whip salad dressing, remains in short supply. We're sorry, but until more sugar is available, Miracle Whip will continue to be rather scarce. Now we return to the great Gildersleeve. There has been an atmosphere of tension about the Gildersleeve household this evening. Gildersleeve has watched in silence while Marjorie made preparations to receive a gentleman caller. He pretended to read his paper while she selected phonograph records and laid them carefully beside the machine. He let her pull the couch closer to the fire. He made no comment when she turned the bridge lamp low. But after dinner, she came sweeping downstairs dressed to kill.
Well... Marjorie, may I ask what the devil you imagine you're dressed up for?
Holy cats, get a load of Cleopatra.
Marjorie, your uncle asked you a question.
Hey, what have you done to your eyes?
Yes, what have you done to them? What is that stuff?
It's merely a little simple eyeshadow. I fail to see why there should be all this fuss about
eyeshadow? Now, see here.
Oh, Uncle Mort.
No nice girl uses eyeshadow. And no nice boy would go out with a girl who does.
I fail to see why using eyeshadow is any worse than using lipstick.
I have forbidden you to use lipstick repeatedly.
She still does, though.
Oh, mind your business.
Is this true, my dear? Are you using lipstick?
Well, what's the harm if you haven't even noticed?
So, you deliberately disobey my orders.
Uncle Mort, I am not going to look ridiculous for anybody.
You look ridiculous right now. That dress, where did you get that?
This just happens to be a dress that you bought me yourself.
I never bought you any dress like that. With those shoulders.
They're elastic. You just pull them up or pull them down.
Well, pull them up.
Really?
I never bought that dress anyway. Marjorie, I don't know what's gotten into you.
She thinks she's Lana Turner.
Oh, go away.
Why, a nice boy like Ben, if he could see you like this, he'd be horrified.
You want to bet?
I'm not going to argue. Go upstairs and change your clothes. Did you hear me? Go upstairs and change your clothes. Leroy, leave the room. I will remind you, my dear, that I am still your uncle.
Well, let me remind you, Uncle Mort, that I am not a baby.
You never looked more like one in your life. You look like some child dressed up in her mother's clothes. Now go upstairs and take off that ridiculous outfit. And take a washcloth and...
Ben.
It's Ben. Oh, boy, wait.
Leroy, wait.
Wait, Leroy. Well, my dear, are you going
Uncle Mort, it's too late.
It's not too late. You've never hesitated to keep him waiting before. I'll entertain him while you're changing. Well, are you going to do as I tell you?
Oh, why do you always have to ruin everything? Every
Now, that's not true. All right, Leroy. You can open the door.
Hi, Ben.
Well, come in, Ben.
Hello, Leroy. Hi, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Come in, my boy. Come in.
Oh, thanks. Is Marge around? I thought she was expecting me.
Boy, is she ever expecting you. You ought to see it. Oh, yeah, she's around.
Yeah, she'll be down in a moment. Leroy, I think it's your bedtime. School tomorrow, you know.
Oh, for corn's sake, all I ever get is sent to bed. Why don't you ever make money?
Leroy, go this instant.
Okay.
Sorry, Ben. These little disciplinary measures are sometimes necessary.
I know. Good night, Leroy.
Good night.
You don't mind my saying good night to him?
No. Of course not. I always make a point of saying it myself. Good night, Leroy. Children, let's go into the living room, shall we? Yes, Ben, you'll be having children of your own someday. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Sit down.
Thanks.
Ben, I'd like to have a little talk with you.
All right, sir. When?
Well, right now, if you're not doing anything.
Just waiting for Marge.
Well, that's good. Ben?
You're sure she's expecting me?
Oh, yes, she's expecting you, all right.
I thought from the way she talked on the phone, sounded like she had something on her mind.
That's just it. Ben?
Yes, sir?
I don't know how much you know about women, Ben.
Well, isn't much.
Well, at least you know that much. Marjorie is just a girl, of course, Ben. But she's at the age where she's becoming a woman. You must always bear that in mind.
Oh, I do.
And as a girl becomes a woman, Ben, she tends to think more and more of men.
I guess it works both ways.
Exactly. Now, Marjorie is a girl, as I say, and girls sometimes get ideas that are too big for them. I mean, they get a little ahead of themselves. You know?
No, sir.
You don't? Well, what I'm trying to say, Ben, a girl like Marjorie gets notions sometimes, and... quiet. Here she comes.
Marge?
Yeah, I heard her door open upstairs. Don't let her know what we were talking about.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Come on, let's go out in the hall. Well, my dear, it's about... Well... Marjorie.
Hello, Marge. Gosh.
Now she's wearing earrings just to make me mad. I tell you, Peavy, the girl is getting out of hand. Why, it's got so now if any friend of hers turns up, the first thing she does is shove me out of the door. Pretty soon I won't have any place to stay.
Oh, I imagine Marjorie is really very fond of you, Mr. Gildersleeve. It's just that she's at a difficult age.
Yeah, she sure is.
We're all at a difficult age, I guess. I'm perfectly willing to admit that I'm not the soul of reason at all times, but then neither is she.
Who?
Mrs. Peavy.
Who's talking about Mrs. Peavy?
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess my mind wandered there for a little. What were we talking? Oh, yes. Your niece. Marjorie.
Glad you remember her name.
Well, what about Marjorie?
I've just been telling you. Peavy, I don't believe you listen to half of what I say.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that.
I only hope you follow your prescriptions more closely than you follow a conversation.
Well, Mr. Gildersleeve, a prescription is a matter of life and death. But some of the conversation I have to listen to...
Well!
Oh, not yours. You're always welcome here, Mr. Gildersleeve. In fact, I always look forward to your dropping in as one of the bright spots in my day. That's the kind of a day I have.
Well, that's a nice remark.
Oh, I don't know what's the matter with me today, Mr. Gildersleeve. I guess it's just that I have problems.
You have problems. You ought to hear about my problems.
I thought I had.
Did you ever have a niece who set out in cold blood to get herself engaged? When you tried to reason with her, she kicked you out of the house?
No, Mr. Gildersleeve, I can't say that I ever did.
Well, don't talk to me about problems.
And did you ever have a wife want to take you to the picture show? And she's been after me for a week now.
After all, I'm the girl's guardian. I think I have a right to a little respect.
What in the world she wants to see the thing for? To each his own. I understand it's a sad picture.
Just hope she isn't making a fool of herself with Ben, that's all.
I don't know if I could stand a sad picture this week.
Not worried about Ben particularly. He's a nice boy, but Marjorie...
By the way, how is Marjorie?
She's fine.
Maybe I'll just stay home and send the old girl to the pictures by herself.
Never should have left her alone with him. Never should have left the house. I'd give anything to know what's going on over there. I'd give $1 million just to see what she's up to.
Oh, I love Rimsky-Korsakov. Don't you?
Is that what it is?
Song of India, Rimsky-Korsakov.
Hey, you ought to be on information, please.
He also wrote Scheherazade. He was Russian.
Oh.
I love all his music. It has so much color.
So much what?
Never mind. I like to lie back and just let the melody take me in its arms. Why don't you lie back too, Ben?
Oh, I'm perfectly comfortable.
But you seem so stiff. Relax.
I'm relaxed.
Oh, Ben, relax. There, that's better, isn't it?
Sure. Anything you say, Marge.
Ben.
Oh, there's the record.
Oh, don't get up.
But the record, that's the end.
Well, let it go. It'll turn itself off.
Well, it isn't doing it. Look, I better...
Ben, let it go.
You want to wear out your record?
I don't care about the record, Ben.
Oh, okay. It's your record.
Ben.
Something wrong with that automatic, though. Yeah.
Ben, why have you been the way you've been this evening?
What way have I been?
The way you've been.
I don't know what you mean.
Yes, you do. You've seemed sort of on your guard all evening.
I have?
Yes. Ben, don't you like me anymore?
Like you? Gosh.
Well, then, why do you act so strange?
I don't know. Guess I'm kind of buffaloed or something.
Why?
Well, you're different tonight, Marge. You've changed.
Don't you like it?
Yeah. That's why I'm being careful.
Careful of what?
Well, if I'm not careful, I might try and kiss you or something.
Would that be so terrible?
Well, I know a lot of fellas go around kissing girls, but I don't do that way. If I kiss a girl, that means we're engaged, practically. Go ahead and laugh if you want to.
I don't feel like laughing, Ben. I feel like crying.
What for?
Oh, Ben!
Hey! Marge, I'd better go turn off that machine.
Don't worry. I won't ask you to kiss me.
Huh? Oh, there's somebody at the front door, Marge. Your uncle, probably.
Well, you needn't jump. Goodness knows you haven't done anything.
Hey. What's the idea? Where are you going?
Say goodnight to Uncle Mort for me. And tell him he needn't worry. I couldn't have been in safer hands.
I don't get it. What did I do? Well, anyway, good night. Oh, hi, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Marjorie gone upstairs, has she?
Yeah.
Wanted to leave you alone with me, I suppose.
I suppose so. I don't know.
I don't know what's been going on here, but I think you might at least have turned off the phonograph.
Oh, I meant to tell you it's busted. The automatic, I mean.
I'm not blaming you, Ben. It's Marjorie. She's very careless about certain things. You might as well know that.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's go into my study, get this thing over. I suppose you have something you want to ask me.
ask you?
Well, Ben?
Aye.
Sit down, my boy. I'll try to make this easy for you.
Easy?
Ben, don't ever have a niece.
No, sir. I'll try not to.
Well, let's get to the point. Now, I have nothing against you, Ben. You've always been welcome around here. Always glad to have you around.
Well, thanks.
But you must realize, Marjorie is still young yet. Oh, I know she's been after you all evening to get engaged. Girls get those.
Is that what she was after?
Well, didn't you...
Oh, boy, was I dumb.
Ben!
Gee, thanks, Mr. Gildersleeve. Thanks for the tip.
Wait, Ben.
Hey, Marge. Marge, come down, will you? Please, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you something.
Son of a gun, why can't I ever keep my big mouth shut?
We'll hear from the great Gildersleeve again very shortly. Sweet music to your ears and ours is the news that Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise is once again available in reasonable quantity. Yes, some shipments of this famous product, Kraft Mayonnaise, are going out to food dealers all over the country. And if you've not yet seen a small supply at your grocer's, you probably will very soon. Kraft Mayonnaise, you know, is the superb mayonnaise that glorifies every salad, vegetable, fruit, or the main dish variety. For Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise has the delicacy and richness that only really choice ingredients can give. Fine salad oil, selected eggs, fragrant vinegar and spices, and for piquant flavor, fresh lemon juice. Its texture is exquisite, too, blended to surpassing smoothness in a special beater patented by Kraft. You'll never again bother to make your own once you try Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise. And by the way, Miracle Whip, another famous Kraft product, is still rather scarce. The shortage of sugar continues to limit its production.
Good night, Ben.
Good night.
Marjorie?
Well,
Well,
I suppose you were listening to every word we said.
I did nothing of the kind. But I think I have a right to know what's going on here. Marjorie, did he...
Naturally. I said he would, didn't I?
Now, listen here. I'm your guardian, and there'll be no engagements around here without my permission. So you can just call it off.
Who said I was engaged?
But you just said that Ben...
I told Ben I couldn't possibly think of getting married for at least 10 years.
After leading him on like that? Marjorie, I don't understand you.
I'm going to have a career first. I'm not like Francie.
Oh, that's all. Well, and what career have you chosen, my dear?
I'm going to be a model.
A model?
So's Mary Louise, and so's Kay. We all decided we're going to be models.
Listen, we'll have no more pajama parties here, understand? Now go to bed. I ask you folks, what gets into girls? Now, Marjorie makes a lot of sense by herself. Nice girl, too. When she gets 2 or 3 of her friends, I ask you. Well, good night.
The Great Gildersleeve is played by Harold Perry. It is written by John Whedon and Sam Moore. The music is by Jack Meakin. Included in the cast are Walter Tetley as Leroy, Louise Erickson as Marjorie, and Lillian Randolph as Bertie. Dick LeGrand plays Mr. Peavy. This is John Lang saying goodnight for the Kraft Foods Company and inviting you to listen in again next Wednesday for the further adventures of the Great Gildersleeve.
Plenty of rich, velvety, smooth ice cream. Any flavor you like, always on hand. Sound swell? It is, and so easy to enjoy when you buy the new Kraft product called Frizz, F-R-I-Z-Z. Yes, Frizz makes delicious homemade ice cream right in your refrigerator. Real ice cream with plenty of milk and cream in it. Just add water, a little sugar, and freeze according to directions on the package. Made by an exclusive process that retains that fresh cream flavor. It freezes smoothly, gives you 6 generous servings from 1 package of Frizz.
This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
The Kraft Foods Company presents The Great Gildersleeve.
Yes.
It's The Great Gildersleeve, starring Harold Perry, brought to you by the Kraft Foods Company, makers of a complete line of famous quality food products. For every mortal on this earth, some would like to believe there is a guiding star in the heavens. If this is so, then Gildersleeve's star, lumbering through space, must this week have brushed by Venus. Fate moves mysteriously and in sudden ways. Fate was at work the day that Gildersleeve, wearying of the monotonous fare and familiar faces at the Idle Hour tea shop, wandered alone for lunch into the grill of the Summerfield Hotel. He handed his hat to the checkroom girl, let her help him off with his overcoat, and turned to look for a table, when suddenly, coming toward him, he saw a vision.
Floyd, she was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She was beautiful. An absolute vision of delight. I tell you, she was just beautiful.
This dame must have been pretty good looking. Who was she?
I don't know. All I know is she was beautiful.
Well, didn't you ask, for goodness sake?
Floyd, I'm trying to tell you, this woman was so beautiful.
I know.
I couldn't just walk up to her and say, "Who are you?"
No, but you could have bumped into her and said, "Beg your pardon." There's ways.
I know, but I couldn't think of them. I couldn't think of anything except that she was beautiful.
Was this dame alone, or was
she was not a dame, Floyd. She was a different type entirely. I don't know whether she was alone or not. I didn't notice.
Well, what'd she look like?
Floyd, she was...
I know, she was beautiful. But what did she look like? Was she dark or was she a blonde?
I don't know.
Well, was she tall or was she short?
I don't remember that either.
You sure you saw this dame?
Why, of course I saw her. And stop calling her a dame.
Oh, pardon me.
Finish me up, Floyd. I want to get going. You know what she reminded me of, Floyd?
What?
A poem we had to learn in school. I don't remember it exactly, but it went something, something, something. And then my heart with rapture fills and dances with the daffodils.
This dame fond of daffodils, is she?
How do I know?
I was just asking. I thought you reciting me this poem about daffodils. Maybe she was crazy about them or something.
It's the only poem I remember.
Oh.
Floyd, the woman was beautiful.
Yeah, tell me.
I'm not joking, Floyd. How do you suppose I could find out who she is? How do you suppose I could meet her?
Well, you sort of muffed your chance there. The only way I can think of is to go back where you seen her. Maybe she'll come in for lunch again.
That's an idea.
You know, the criminal returns to the scene of the crime and all.
Gosh, if she walked in there again, Floyd, I don't know what I'd say. But I'd think of something. Hurry up, let me out of here, Floyd. I've got to... Oh, a little early for lunch, isn't it? Only 11:30.
It ain't so early. If you're worried about eating alone, Mr. Gildersleeve, I'll be glad to close the shop and come with you.
Oh, no. No, Floyd. This is one thing I'm handling by myself.
Now, sir, what'll you have?
Huh? Oh.
Are you expecting somebody else?
No, that is, no, I'm alone.
Well, what would you like?
I don't know. I'm not very hungry. What's good?
The veal shank is very...
Yeah, I'll have that. Say, miss.
Yes, sir?
Tell me, you haven't seen a lady come in, have you? I mean, she was in here yesterday.
What kind of lady?
Well, she was quite attractive. She...
No, sir. Nobody like that's been in.
Look, if you're lonesome, I'm not necessarily doing anything tonight.
What's that?
Let it go. I'll get your veal shank.
Oh, head waiter.
Yes, monsieur?
Maybe you could tell me. I'm looking for a lady. I don't know who she is, but she was in here for lunch about a week ago. I thought maybe you might have noticed.
Did she sit at that table right over there?
I don't know. I only saw her coming out.
Well, was she,
Oh, very.
And kind of,
Yes.
And did she have,
That's the one. Do you know her? Do you know who she is?
No, monsieur. But I know the gentleman she was with.
She was with somebody?
Mr. Engelbach.
Otto Engelbach. Nuts. Otto Engelbach, Peavy. The one man in this town I'm not speaking to. He isn't speaking to me either.
Well, it's a small world, Mr. Gildersleeve.
It's a small town, Peavy. That's what's wrong. This town isn't big enough for me and Otto Engelbach.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. Of course, maybe the lady isn't big enough for you and Mr. Engelbach.
Peavy, how can a lovely creature like that associate with a fellow like Engelbach?
Oh, I don't know. A lot of people are glad to associate with Mr. Engelbach. He's a pretty solid citizen. President of the country club 3 times running.
Yeah, he bought his way in. I told him so, too.
No wonder he's not speaking to you.
Like this affair he's giving at the club Saturday. The president's annual dinner. Why do you suppose he does that? So he'll get reelected, throwing his money around. I wouldn't be caught dead at that thing.
Were you invited?
Nope. I don't care either.
Little sour grapes?
Not at all. What would I want to go to the... Say, you don't suppose she'll be there?
No.
Peavy, she's bound to be there. If she's still in town, a show-off like Engelbach, he'd never miss a chance like that. He'll be parading her around, strutting like a peacock, the fat slob.
No.
Peavy, I can't stand it. What can she see in him, Peavy? Tell me that.
Well, after all, he's got money, as you say. And he's an eligible bachelor like yourself.
Oh, this girl wouldn't be influenced by money, Peavy. You don't know her.
Do you?
You can tell it the minute you meet her. There's something unearthly about her, Peavy. Something radiant. Something that makes you want to worship from afar.
Oh.
I've got to meet her, Peavy. I've got to get to that dinner.
I thought you wanted to worship from afar.
Don't make fun of me, please, Peavy. I know you don't believe me, but this is the real thing. How can I get to that dinner?
Well, the only way I can see is to make friends with Mr. Engelbach.
Friends with Engelbach? Never. No, sir. But do you know what he wants me to do? He wants me to apologize.
Well?
I never apologize to anybody. It's against my principles. Least of all to a fat...
Well, Judge Hooker.
Gentlemen. Still hanging around drugstores, Gildy?
You old goat.
What can I do for you, Judge?
You'll pardon us a moment, Gildy?
Sure, go ahead.
Say, Peavy, this stuff you sold me, there aren't any directions with it.
Oh, well, it's very simple. You merely apply it to the denture, and then...
Say, Judge, you know Otto Engelbach?
Certainly. Why?
I mean, you're on good terms with him and all.
Why, of course. Why?
I was just saying to Peavy, what a pity it is that Otto and I haven't been speaking all these years.
Well, I don't think Otto's losing any sleep over it.
I know, but the whole thing is so unfortunate, Judge, so petty and ridiculous. 2 men who ought to be friends carrying on this way.
Well, you wouldn't be if you weren't so pig-headed and obstinate.
I know. I've been at fault, Horace.
You made a very unfair accusation against Otto Engelbach in public, and I think that he had a perfect right to insist on an apology.
That's just it, Horace. I've come to see that now. Haven't I, Peavy? Will you do me a favor, Judge? Will you go to Otto and tell him...
Why should I go to him? You go to him. Just go and apologize. That's all there is to it.
Horace, please, if you just tell him...
Tell him yourself. Why should I be the go-between?
I'm shy. All right, I insulted him in public. I think it's only fair that I apologize in public.
What do you mean, in public?
Well, you know Otto. You'll be seeing him, Horace. Tell him if he'll invite me to his dinner party Saturday night. Don't tell him I said so, mind you. But tell him you have it on good authority from a source close to me.
Yeah?
Tell him if he'll invite me to his party, I'll apologize. Will you do that?
What are you so anxious to go to his party for?
So I can apologize, Judge, for no other reason, believe me.
My.
Will you do it, Judge? Will you, for me? All right, then, do it for Engelbach.
Well, if I see him.
Thanks, Horace. Gee, you don't know what a relief this is. I've had this hanging over me all these years. Just didn't want to give in. But lately I haven't been able to sleep nights hardly, thinking about Otto and how I was unfair to him. Tell him that, will you?
Uh-huh. Well, I'll be going. And thanks for the information, Peavy.
And not at all, Judge. I think you'll find it'll stop that wobble. If it doesn't, bring it back.
Don't forget, Judge. You might even find Otto in right now if you stop by his office.
Mr. Gildersleeve, really,
Well, what's the difference? All's fair in love and war.
But to pretend to make friends with your man and then steal his girl.
Peavy, I'll say this. It couldn't happen to a nicer fella. Now, don't say I'm not friendly.
We told you last week, but it's still big news and good news. Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise is once again available and in reasonable quantity. Yes, the supply of fine salad oils is becoming more plentiful. And now Kraft can make a fair amount of this really superior mayonnaise, which has long been famous. Soon, if you haven't already, you should be able to find some at your food dealers. Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise, you know, is mayonnaise with the delicacy of flavor, the richness that only choice ingredients can give. Fine salad oil, selected eggs, fragrant vinegar and spices. And for the final touch of inspiration, fresh lemon juice is added. With its piquant homemade goodness, Kraft mayonnaise glorifies any and every salad. Its texture, too, is marvelous. A special patented beater exclusive with Kraft gives Kraft mayonnaise a velvet smoothness you could never accomplish in your own kitchen. It's mayonnaise nothing short of perfection. Kraft Kitchen Fresh Mayonnaise. Incidentally, another famous Kraft product, Miracle Whip salad dressing, continues to be fairly scarce. We're sorry, but the shortage of sugar continues to limit its production. Now let's get back to the great Gildersleeve. Judge Hooker has promised to patch things up for him with Otto Engelbach. But here it is Saturday afternoon, the day of Engelbach's country club dinner, and Gildersleeve has had no news. We find him pacing thoughtfully in his parlor.
The old goat. Would he have the sense to let me know? No, he wouldn't. How could he? No imagination. He doesn't know what I'm going through. He doesn't know how beautiful she was.
How beautiful who was?
I was not addressing you, Leroy.
There's nobody else here.
I thought I was alone. Eavesdropping is a nasty, dirty trick, my boy. That means spying.
Who's spying? I just walked in here. I was going to ask you for a quarter. Spying. Can I have a quarter?
Leroy, I'm about to answer your question. I wish you to regard my answer as the end of our conversation, not the beginning. Do you understand?
I only want to see the picture at the Majestic.
I just told you.
It's an educational picture. I thought you'd want me to see it.
Educational? It's 3 little girls in blue.
Well, it's an educational short. Goes with it.
Leroy, I told you I wanted no lengthy arguments.
You said when you answered it'd be the end, but you haven't answered yet, so I thought I'd tell you some of the advantages. Then if you...
The answer is no. Now, for heaven's sake.
Well, if I can't go to the movies, can Piggy come over and play?
I don't want Piggy hanging around here this afternoon, Leroy.
We won't hang around. We'll play.
I don't want you playing here either.
We'll play quietly.
And stop arguing with me.
Who's arguing? Okay.
Permit me to answer it, Leroy.
Sure. Gosh, what's eating him anyway?
Hello? Just a minute, I'll call her. Leroy, please go upstairs and ask your sister to come to the telephone. Do not yell.
Okay. Gosh, there's nothing the matter with her.
Maybe Hooker hasn't even seen Engelbach. If he had any idea what I was after. Oh, no, he wouldn't. Maybe he just forgot all about it. Man his age gets absent-minded. Better call him up. Yes, by George, I'll call him right this very minute.
Who is it, Unky? Do you know?
I didn't ask. Some girl.
Francie?
I don't know. Please be brief, Marjorie. I'm anxious to use the telephone.
Hello? Oh, hello, Mary Louise. What do you know? Well, it's funny that you should call because I heard only this morning that Francie told Clubby the same thing. So naturally, Lloyd knows all about it. And if he knows, George knows because Lloyd tells his brother everything. It's terrible to get mixed up with brothers.
Marjorie, I'm anxious to use the telephone. If you will confine your conversation to the essentials, I shall be greatly obliged.
Wait a minute, Mary Louise. Unky's mumbling about something.
Get off the telephone. I want to use it now.
Well, I'll call you back, Mary Louise. I hope you realize Mary Louise could hear every word you said.
I don't care what Mary Louise heard.
I could hear her gasp at the other end.
Oh, that's too bad.
Better take it easy, Marge. The least little thing seems to get him in an uproar.
Well, good heavens.
Hello. I'd like to speak to Judge Hooker, please. I don't care. This is important. Yes, this is Mr. Gildersleeve. The old goat working on a Saturday afternoon. Listen, Hooker, you said you were going to get a hold of Otto Engelbach for me. Why didn't you call me? What did he say? You might have let me know. Good old Horace. 7 o'clock, black tie. By George, you're a real friend, Judge. If I can ever do a favor for you, just name it. Thanks again, Horace, and so long. Woo-hoo! I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey. Better be ready about 8:30. Well, children, what's the idea of moping around the house on a beautiful Saturday afternoon?
Huh? Do you mind if I use the telephone, Unky?
Telephone? Certainly not, my dear. Telephone to your heart's content. Telephone to Philadelphia. Call up somebody in San Francisco. The sky is the limit.
For heaven's sake.
And Leroy, go to the movies.
What a character.
Oop, that's enough. Yeah, where the devil is the soap? Oh, here. Yeah. Too hot? Nope. Just right. What'll I say to her? First impressions are very important. I suppose there'll be a whole mob of people around. Band playing and so forth. And somebody will say, Miss So-and-so, may I present Mr. Gildersleeve? And she'll say, how do you do? And I'll say, how do you do? Then what do I say? Well, Miss So-and-so, where have you been all my life? I'll just say it lightly like that. Well, Miss So-and-so, where have you been all my life? And she'll say, something like,
Oh, Mr. Gildersleeve, where have you been all my life?
Then what? Where have you been all my life? I could sort of smile at her and say, I've been waiting to meet someone like you. That ought to get her. And I guess I could ask her to dance. Just an excuse to leave the other people. But you'll understand that. Would you care to dance, Miss So-and-so, by any chance?
I'd love to.
Gotta have a little more hot water. You dance beautifully, Miss So-and-so. Light as a feather.
You lead brilliantly, Mr. Gildersleeve. You seem to feel the music.
Oh, I do. Tonight.
Is there something special about tonight?
Oh, there is. I feel I've known you for a long time. Possibly in another world.
I had a similar feeling when I saw you coming across the room just now. Even before we met.
Miss So-and-so, I don't like to ask this on such short acquaintance, but does that loudmouth Otto Engelbach mean anything to you?
I can't stand Otto Engelbach.
Neither can I. I wasn't going to say anything if he was a friend of yours, naturally.
He's an old friend of my brother's. But he's treated me practically like a prisoner ever since I've been here. He hasn't introduced me to anyone. Takes me on long rides.
Why, has he tried to force his attentions on you?
I've been able to prevent that.
Why, if he was to lay a finger on you, I'd break him in two like a match.
It's nice to know I have a strong defender.
Miss So-and-so, let's go out on the terrace.
I think that's a lovely idea. There's a moon.
And I know a dandy little place to sit. You can see the whole 18th fairway, practically. Isn't it a beautiful night?
Lovely.
You're not worried about being out here with me on account of Engelbach?
Oh, no. Aren't you afraid of what white people might say?
Not me. Don't sigh and gaze at me. Your sighs are so like mine. Your eyes mustn't glow like mine. People will say we're in love.
Oh, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Call me Throckmorton, Miss So-and-so.
Throckmorton.
Certainly not. I'm washing thoroughly, that's all. Yes, Floyd? I'm on the way. Just dropped in for you to put on a couple of the finishing touches.
Let me see. Gee, the old tux still shapes up pretty good, don't it?
Well, it's not so old. It cost me plenty 15 years ago.
Uh-huh. Boiled shirt and pearl studs. Hey, those ain't real pearls, are they, Commissioner?
Well, they're not the most expensive variety. I believe they're mother of pearl.
Well, it's all in the family. Gee, I'd say you were all set to mow 'em down, Mr. Gildersleeve. What do you want from me?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Mustache? Hair trim? Massage? I've shaved, of course.
You shaved, all right. If I tried to shave you any closer, you'd bleed to death. Turn around. Let me see you in the back.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you don't want to trim. You're right at the best stage. Don't look like you just had a haircut, you know what I mean?
You're sure?
Oh, why should I lie to you? I could run the clippers up and down there and charge you $50. Rather see you look good.
Well, thanks, Lloyd. I appreciate that. This means a lot to me, you know. Well, here I go. Here I go. Oh, good evening. Oh, hello. How are you, Mrs. Van Hartsveld? Yeah, good evening.
Well, Gildy, I've been looking for you.
Oh, hello, Judge. See you later.
Wait a minute.
Huh?
Engelbach was around here just a second ago.
Engelbach? Well, there's no hurry about it, is there?
Oh, yeah. I thought you were in a hurry to get straightened out with him. I thought that you...
Horace.
What's the matter? Let go of me.
Horace, that lady over there. That lady. Have you met her?
Sure I have. She's the guest of honor. You want to meet her?
Horace, if you'll introduce me to her, I'll be in your debt as long as I live. Longer.
Well, that's easy. Come on.
Wait a minute. Is my tie straight?
Oh, sure. What's the difference? Come on.
Okay.
Well, here we are. Miss Stevens, may I present my friend, Mr. Gildersleeve?
How do you do?
How do you do?
Well, Miss Stevens, where have you been all my life?
Oh, and her husband, Colonel Stevens, Mr. Gildersleeve.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Colonel Stevens is the noted flyer.
Oh, he is. Well.
Would you gentlemen forgive me if I dance with my wife? I haven't seen her in 2 years. How about it, darling?
I'd love to, darling.
Charming woman, isn't she, Gildy? Oh, here comes Engelbach. Now you can get squared away.
What?
Well, good evening, Gildersleeve. I understand there was something you wanted to say to me.
Yes, go fly a kite.
The great Gildersleeve will be back again in just a minute. Many an expert hostess has built her reputation for fine foods on the superior salads she serves. And chances are those salads have been made with Kraft Kitchen Fresh mayonnaise whenever possible. So here's really good news. Fine salad oil is becoming more plentiful, and Kraft mayonnaise is once again available in reasonable quantity. If not already, your favorite food store should have a small supply very soon. Just as you remember it, Kraft Kitchen Fresh mayonnaise has a delicate homemade flavor that comes from the choice ingredients that go into it. Fine salad oil and eggs, fragrant vinegar and spices, and as a final crowning touch, fresh lemon juice. Then a special beater patented by Kraft gives it surpassing smoothness, a creamy velvet texture that is truly superb. You'll never again bother to make your own once you try Kraft Kitchen Fresh mayonnaise. It's available now. Miracle Whip, however, remains rather scarce because of the sugar shortage.
Too bad. Well, what do I care? Her nose was too big. Good night, folks.
The Great Gildersleeve is played by Harold Perry. It is written by John Wheaton and Sam Moore. The music is by Jack Meakin. Included in the cast are Walter Tetley as Leroy and Louise Erickson as Marjorie. Dick LeGrand plays Mr. Peavy, and Judge Hooker is Earl Ross. This is John Lang saying goodnight for the Kraft Foods Company and inviting you to listen in again next Wednesday for the further adventures of the Great Gildersleeve.
Good night.
Ice cream always tastes especially good. So ask your grocer for several packages of Frizz. Yes, Frizz, F-R-I-Z-Z, is the new Kraft product that makes delicious ice cream right in your own refrigerator. Ice cream that's velvety smooth and rich with plenty of milk and cream. It's easy. Just add water, a little sugar, and freeze according to the directions on the package. So economical, you get 6 generous servings from one small package. Remember, Frizz is made by an exclusive process that retains the fresh cream flavor. Try it soon. The new Kraft product called Frizz.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.